Hey, how's it going? All right. So, disclaimer, we're not going to be talking about any government or state secrets here. So, if that's what you came for, you'll be disappointed. All right, I'm Valsmith. I run attack research. I've been involved with the Metasploit project for a while. I mostly work on researching attack techniques that different people use, as well as pen testing and all the normal stuff. I've done a few talks before about malware, about data mining, various things like this. My co-speakers, which may or may not show up, are Colin Ames. He works for me at Attack Research. Really, really smart guy. And Anthony Lai, a guy that we brought over from Hong Kong to help with this talk. He does penetration testing as well as reverse engineering and malware. He runs a company called VXRL in Hong Kong. Also a very smart guy and a lot of experience with the Chinese hacking community. He's actually relatively close, so he may be here. So we gave basically this talk at Blackhat, and so I wanted to throw in here a little bit of note for any media that may be in the room, just based on some articles that came out after our talk. This is sort of a summary of really what we're trying to say, our core message for this talk. And what we're trying to say is that China has the same problems with malware and hacking that we do, and that every other country pretty much does. And that we feel that Chinese security research is really valuable, and they follow our research, but we're not really following theirs so much, and there's a lot we could learn from it. They come out with a lot of 0 days and other things that we shouldn't be missing. And finally, we think it would be valuable to start collaboration between the hacking community here in the United States and the one over there to sort of understand the cultural differences as well as the different types of techniques that are going on and help avert misunderstandings, because there's a lot of rumor and things in the media that aren't necessarily based on fact. So that's what we said at Blackhat. This is what the media prints based on what we said. You know, malware openly available in China. Well, yeah, obviously it's openly available everywhere, but specifically calling out China is kind of crappy. They also say that the message of our talk was that they're rapidly emerging as a hotspot for criminal hacking activity. Well, the internet's a hotspot for criminal hacking activity. There's really no need to try to build drama into this because, there is none. It's everybody is dealing with hacking, security issues, all of these things. So if you're in the media and you want to talk to us about what we're talking about, that would be cool, but just printing things to make a lot of drama doesn't make much sense. And yeah, that's the article. All right, so we're going to be taking a look at China's hacking community, talking about who the players are, the similarities between what they do and what we do, as well as the differences. And then we're going to take a look at some funny, interesting things we found in Chinese malware. Based on what we hear in the media, China is having great success in their, breaking into computers and coming out with new tools in 0 days, so we kind of want to understand why this is, or if it is. All right, so our basic philosophy is to understand what's going on, not to assume, just based on what we hear. So we've been gathering facts and data, collecting tools, exploit generators, malware, talking to actual people over there that do things, and trying to understand the data from all sides. And to reiterate, we're not covering any governments, nation-state capabilities, or anything political. And in fact, Anthony lives there, and Colin and I are headed there today to go to DEFCON. And so, the last thing we want to do is bring up stuff about their government. All right, so we're going to cover some terminology. We're going to discuss some famous and important hackers in China, including Whitehats and Blackhats, and then some interesting Chinese-made malware. So typically this is the part where Anthony explains it, but I'll do my best. So there's a few keywords here, which I'm not going to attempt to pronounce in Chinese, but in English, the top word means chicken. And what's interesting about this is, in America we sort of have this phrase called bring a lamb to slaughter. It's essentially the same thing, but they don't really have lamb, they have chicken. So they use this instead of saying the word Trojan or backdoor. So on their forums, whenever you see this word, that's what they're talking about. The next phrase is basically referring to injected malicious code into a web page like an iframe or JavaScript. And then the final one is referring to like antivirus evasion, firewall evasion, persistence. It's basically a tool that's designed not to be killed or removed from a system. So if you're trying to do research into Chinese tools and malware, these are some of the keywords that you can search for or look for on the internet. All right, so next we're going to cover essentially what Anthony informs us of is that there's a genealogy of hackers in China. There's several generations. So the first generation of hackers were almost like the first generation of hackers here. Basically just smart guys interested in sharing techniques, almost like academic work, sort of like what came out of MIT. And a lot of these guys became CEOs of important technology companies over there in China. Like the guy that runs Kingsoft, for example, which is a big company there. And the person who invented the way of inputting Chinese alphabet into keyboards. So all these guys started off as hackers and then became influential CEOs. So after that, the next three generations that came all sort of have different characteristics to them. Between 1997 and 2002, there's a lot of what they call conflicts. These are sort of equivalent to our when two hacker groups get mad at each other, LOD, MOD type stuff. This was going on during this time frame, and it's about the second generation of Chinese hackers. And they got involved in fights with hacker groups in other countries like Japan and the Philippines, what have you. Some of the standout people of the second generation of hackers are these gentlemen up here, whose names I can't really pronounce, but the first guy's name, try to remember that because later on in the talk it's important. He essentially spends a lot of his time, or when he was active, looking for vulnerabilities, writing 0 days, locating 0 days. Very smart guy. Another really important hacker of this generation's name is Glacier, and he's actually a part of the X-Focus group. All right, so the third generation, a lot of these guys are famous because of more cyber warfare, more types of attacking different groups, and there's a whole list of guys here. All of these are pretty much significant hackers in the Chinese hacking community. Flash Guy is a very important hacker. He released a lot of tools that are used in the wild. Now the fourth generation has a few people. These are their names. There's a tool called Gray Pigeon or Wigizi, and that tool is very significant. It's heavily in use, and it's a really advanced command and control system, and we'll go into some details about it in a bit. And there's a forum, very famous forum in China called Evil Octal, and like Sunware and a few other people on this list are part of that group. Evil Octal is essentially a place for sharing attack information, exploits, techniques, methodologies. A lot of interesting people hang out there. So the fifth generation, the most current hackers, what are going on today, are essentially script kiddies. They rely on the tools coming down from the previous generations and the research done by other people. Their main goals are to commercialize their attacks in order to make money, and we'll talk about specifics in a bit. And a lot of these guys basically sell openly on internet forums tools and attack services. They basically just either steal source code from other people's tools, modify it, or they just straight up steal the tools and resell them. A lot of these guys don't even know how to code, but they know how to use the tools. And the other generations don't look down on them often with a lot of respect. All right, so Anthony wanted to point out that there's some vendors in China, just like there are here, who release tools to help defend against these type of attacks. And essentially this is a list of some of the vendors. Significant ones like NS Focus are on here. So these would be useful since us in the United States may not understand their Whitehat versus their Blackhat community so well. Understanding these vendors, the Whitehats typically go into business or work for companies like these. All right, so China also has a CERT, and its role is very similar. It's basically gathering statistics and information from intrusions and companies there in China and publishing this. There's also an information security organization that is designed to try to help businesses and organizations defend themselves, and then a whole list of websites for gaining information about security. They also have a HoneyNet project, And most significantly is the XCon conference. This is one of the top level, really good research coming out of this conference. And we're going to go check it out. All right, so a little bit about how Chinese black hats operate. Slightly differently from here in the U.S. In the U.S., people tend to use just telephones or IRC, private IRC or silk channels, things like this. In China, they tend to operate more openly in web forums. Some of these forums you have to subscribe to and pay a fee, somewhere between 20 and 100 Chinese dollars. The other thing that they use frequently is something called QQ. QQ is an instant messenger, very similar to like ICQ or AIM or any of these. And this is a tool that a lot of these people primarily use to communicate, and this gets significant later as we go on. So in a lot of these forums, they advertise attack services. And you can find in search engines like Baidu, if you want to look for, I need help attacking something, or, I need a hacker, you can find tons of services that they'll give you a laundry list, a menu of what they provide and what they can do for you. Tons and tons of sites, but most of these guys are script kiddies. Typically, you have to pay a membership fee in order to get access to the tools, and often they'll just rip you off and take your money and not give you a tool, or they'll give you a broken tool. Another thing is it's very easy to get victims for botnets and things like this, because the whole concept of hardening and security is not as prevalent or widely understood as it is here. There's not a lot of resources to protect systems there. And so what you have is a large number of computers that are vulnerable to a variety of things, and people just don't know. And so these sort of script kiddie groups just can attack wide swaths of the internet over there, gathering victim machines that they can use as bounces or as bots or whatever. So the Trojan industry over there is extremely advanced and almost set up like an industry or a business. There are training portals to go and learn step by step how to use these different tools. And everything is sort of provincial. Each province sort of has specialties and people that are well known. Bots are extremely cheap there because of what I mentioned before, where it's very easy to break into lots of computers. It's about 10 cents per bot. And so DDoS attacks are really easy. You just search for a forum, pay 10 cents per bot, get access to a botnet, and then perform your attack. So according to China CERT, there's something like 2.5 million more Trojans this year than there were in 2008. So like 5.5 times more. So this is a real prevalent industry. A lot of people are producing Trojans. And the forecast from China CERT is that there'll be about 100 billion Chinese dollars in loss due to Trojan attacks, information stealing, this sort of thing. So this is an example of an advertisement. This one's in Chinese. And so we just, Anthony translated it for us. And essentially it's a laundry list of services that they provide. Like they'll do network intrusion, QQ backdoors, they'll provide videos for how to use Trojans. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you get the idea. And they even list the programming languages that they can code in, Visual Basic, Delphi, things like this. So this is a little bit deeper. This is a different advertisement that's been translated. So they'll break into a website or a server or a personal computer. They'll install remote command and control. Oh, and Anthony and Colin are here. So I'm going to turn this over to Anthony because he knows this part of the material much better than I. Anthony, you're up.
Hi, I just got a call in 2 minutes. And on stage, I'm on the CTF room to play the reversing and compete the games with the Korean guys then. Okay, sorry then. Okay, this is an advertisement, okay, for the cracking. Actually, I will translate it in the Chinese website, then you will see it allows many services, okay? It covers all the CISSP syllabus. First of all, like cracking website, cracking server, personal computer, install remote control, okay, cracking mailboxes, every service is diversify, good business. And still be MSN account, QQ chat history, cracking cell phone. I suppose DEFCON could reach them because their QQ number. Please go to the 859 016227. Yeah.